that was a very long time ago. So my son is 30, and at 3, we started our journey to get him diagnosed. Unfortunately, it took a year and a half and a lot of frustration of not knowing where to go and how to navigate the systems. And I had a wonderful woman who spent about an hour on the phone with me and helped me navigate through the system. And I was so grateful to her. And I asked her at the end of our conversation, how could I ever thank you? And she said, pay it forward. Find somebody who needs help and help them. And that became my new mission because it made such a difference in my life. And even today, when I talk to a family of a newly diagnosed, even though it was a very long time ago, it takes me right back to that moment of what it was feeling like to get somebody to take the time to talk to you. I am so proud of our team. We have 11 employees now, which I never thought would happen. They're either family members or on the spectrum themselves. And for each one of them, this is their passion, helping other families. We always say we get you because we are you. And I think that makes the biggest difference. We're not, and no offense to social workers or nurses or anybody else, but we live it every day. And our heart is to help that family achieve their goals, whatever it might be. So that's an interesting question because I was just talking with our fabulous director of programs and we're looking at programs for next year. And there are so many needs in our community. There's so many different ages. There's so many people on the spectrum. We cover San Bernardino and Riverside County. So there's a lot of needs and sometimes it gets tough because we want to help them all. Our mission is to connect people to the resources, and oftentimes in our community, the resources don't exist. And we fill the gaps when we can. We step up, whether it's employment or crisis services. It's not just about connecting people to resources. It's about encouraging people to invent new resources. Yes, so we find that advocacy is closely tied to programming. So for instance, we do systems navigation, and unfortunately during COVID, we started receiving a lot of crisis calls. People who were homeless, people who didn't have food, people who were involved in law enforcement issues. And, again, it's not enough to connect people with the resources because those resources didn't exist. It was about spending time with those families and with law enforcement or hospitals or whoever it may be. And as a result of that, one of the things that we did is we applied for a grant through the state of California for police officer standards training, and we developed a 4-hour curriculum for law enforcement and first responders. And I'm proud to say we've trained over 500 law enforcement individuals throughout Southern California as a result of us seeing that need, as a result of not being any resources. So that's one example. Whenever we do training, we always include adults or teens on the spectrum as part of the training because their opinion is very important and their experiences. And it's always the favorite part of the training, right? I could talk for 3 hours and have a panel of adults come in and that's what is really going to resonate with people. But you're right, it's not enough to just train law enforcement, and they've been fabulous. But we've also got to train our families and our educators and our behaviorists and our neurodiverse community about this is a collaboration and what's our piece in this. You can't come in with a stinky attitude, right? Thinking, you've got to come up open and at least aware of some of the issues. So I love that part about what we do is it really is a collaborative effort. How do we together go forward? We were happy to receive this grant. It's going to end at the end of the year. It kind of coincides with the new social recreation funding that's available to our clients, regional center, and making sure that there's enough vendors. So I talked about, filling that gap. Well, we can't fill that gap. I can't provide art and music and sports and everything else. So we want to build the capacity, especially of the city agencies who usually do such a great job with programming. So we go in there and we talk about autism and the other developmental disorders. We talk about sensory because that's a lot of the environment, right? What are some modifications that you can make that usually don't cost anything? And then if there is an issue, what are some things that you could do to help? Do you have a quiet space, or, don't keep talking over and over. It's things that probably you and I take for granted because it's such a big part of what we do. But it's just giving them a little bit of training. And then, of course, because we believe it, we have a neurodiverse panel. So again, that they're able to share their experiences in social recreation, and individuals are allowed to ask questions and just interact and get some information. So we just kicked it off. The grant's going to end the end of December. So our goal is 10 agencies, and I think we've already got 12 scheduled for trainings. People are hungry for this information. And, I think Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, Social Rec, this is what we run. Options for inclusion, right? Or inclusive environments. And it's a win-win for everybody. I have to say, I would have never guessed we would be where we were. So we were all volunteer, 10 years ago, no paid staff. It was, me and some volunteers that worked and did this as our passion. Today, we've got $1 million budget and 11 employees. And that's like, wow, I can't believe we're at this place. But again, there's so many needs still in the community. We still have, and it hurts my heart, families that are struggling with getting services, whether it's through medical insurance or regional center or school districts. There's still a lot of advocacy issues that need to be done. I will say personally, the employment was one that having a son that's 30, we have an 80% unemployment rate. That is not acceptable. And while we're tackling a piece of it, it's going to take a lot of us to work on some of those issues. I want all of these, and I'm going to call them kids because I'm older, but I want all these kids to grow up, to have the ability to live life to the fullest. So we've got a lot of work to do still. I mentioned that during COVID, we saw a sharp increase of adults who were never diagnosed. And we've even started a monthly support group for adults diagnosed as adults or who may suspect that they're on the spectrum. And it hurts my heart to hear some of the sad stories, but just the brilliance and the connection, right? To see them finding other people that have experienced something similar is just amazing. So yeah, we're just all people. I will say this is an exciting time to be from California. And I recently got back from a national conference. And, I have to say I was very grateful because this conference was on aging and individuals with disabilities. And it was state probably directors from, all over the US. And, it's heartbreaking to hear things like we have a 10-year wait list for Medicaid services. We have people dying while they're on the wait list for Medicaid services. And sometimes we forget that, regional centers are only right now something that's very unique to California. And while services aren't perfect, we have them. And we're not waiting years and years. Now, saying that, I will say that I'm really grateful for DDS and the leadership at DDS. I think this year we had something like 52 new initiatives to build better services. And that's why I think it's exciting, because they are listening to families, whether it's diversity issues or issues that there's not enough service providers or that there's not enough services for older people. They're listening and they're trying. We still have a long ways to go. Employment initiatives. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of the day centers, workshops, type programs are going to be shutting down, and those vendors are going to have to be transitioning to something new, and hopefully it's employment. So it's the time to get creative and look at what else is available. I also want to say, while employment is really important, we have a percentage of our families that have individuals with very high support needs. And so we recognize, right, employment is not for everybody. Being out in the community all day long is not for everybody. And we're working on a conference next month, bringing in national experts to talk about individuals that are in crisis with high support needs and what else can we do. That's an area where we need to do better. We shouldn't be using 911 as our behavioral system. That's not okay, and it's very dangerous. So we've also got a lot of work to do there. On law enforcement side, they're like, well, what do I do when I show up at somebody's house and they're having a behavioral crisis and maybe they're aggressive and they're hitting mom? I can't leave them there to beat up on mom. There needs to be somewhere that I can give them services to. And in the Inland Empire, there is no hospital. There's Kennedy Krieger back in Maryland. There's Emory in Georgia that have services, and that's one of our keynote speakers, to talk about where is that multidisciplinary team of doctors and specialists and behaviorists, and to really sit down and go, is this an abscess tooth? Is this a gut issue? Is this a migraine? Who is that place, right? Where is that place that these individuals that don't have the ability to communicate, that have access to doctors that really can help? And where do families go? A lot of our families live in that, I call it that secret shame, because they don't want adult protective services or child family services to come in, because what's going to happen then? So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. Assume competence, that's probably number one. No matter how communicative there are, if they're able to speak verbally or not speak verbally, please assume competence. Our kids are brilliant, each in their own way. And I love finding those gifts and hearing those stories. Neurodiverse is just that, right? We brain difference. And that's fabulous in my eyes, not just because I have two that are neurodiverse, but that's what makes us unique as human beings. And as we embrace people's gifts and talents, I think it makes us better human beings and as a better society, just in general. And I will say that's also, the benefit of having a team that we live it, is that all of our family events, we always say it's a safe space. No matter where you're on the spectrum, like we've seen it all, like you're not going to surprise us.
Right.
So if your kid's yelling or screaming or hitting, like nobody even blinks. And that's that, safe space. Come just as you are. We accept you because we are you. And we're all going to get through it together, right? It's a journey and we're here for each other.